Hi, this is Jay Rosenzweig. I'm the founder and CEO of birthparentfinder.com, and I have a client on the line who's been a client for the past 3 years, and his case is finally solved. And our client, Stan, has peace of mind. And hi, Stan, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
It's wonderful that you're here with us today. And this is a crazy story. And I personally did not work this case. One of my genealogists and investigators, Diane Helmer, worked this. And it finally got resolved. And the story was that you were left at a doorstep in 1938 in Gary, Indiana. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you had no idea who your birth parents were at all.
no identifying information, no birth certificate, nothing.
And then you took an ancestry DNA test. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what did you find?
Well, my daughter actually took it, and she called me up frantically. She says, "Dad, I think I think I found a brother," and I just almost fell over. So it took me about 15 minutes to get his number, and I called him. But this was after 70 some years or so, and we found each other.
And apparently he is like a year and a half older than you.
Yes, he was born in 1937.
And based on the DNA, that you are actually full brothers, right?
Yes,
And apparently you had the opportunity to meet him recently.
yes.
And at first, his daughter was suspicious that you were related and couldn't figure it out until she realized the DNA showed that you were full brothers.
Yes, I don't think she understood the DNA, and I didn't either. I didn't understand centimorgans and how significant they were. But eventually, like I said, I flew to San Diego, met the whole family, and everything was turned out fine.
Now, from what we know, is that at that point, you did not get closure at all because you still had to figure out who your birth mother was at that time and who your maternal relatives were. So, what did Diane do for you?
Diane was my first lead investigator. She's did a marvelous job, very nice to deal with. Her data was superb. She got pictures of our birth father, uh, everything. And then she got Ashley, her assistant, to do a statistical probability, I guess, studies. I got 3 pages on that. And she said, "We're never wrong." Oh, really? I said, "I believe you, but ultimately I've got to get Diane, my half sister, who she thought is my half sister. We had to get her DNA." So to make a long story short, Jay, I called Diane, got familiar with her, and said, "I'd like to get a DNA. We're close. I'd like to get maybe a first cousin." And she said, "Well, okay." So she took it and failed. So we
Well,
sent her
when
another
you say
one.
she took it and failed, what do you mean?
Well, she didn't. She ate and she didn't rub her tongue against her cheek for that good DNA. So she didn't want to take it the second time. She says, "I just don't want to do it. I've been told not to." I said, "Diane, that's fine. Let's see it, keep in touch." So about 4 or 5 months later, I opened up to Ancestry, and there she was. Her new caregiver got her to do the DNA, and it brought up my kids. Bernard is a stronger link to her than I am.
Right. So Bernard was your full brother, and this woman who was living in Florida, who kind of didn't understand how this all worked, her caregiver convinced her to take the test. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, take the test, and so it solved. That's why I called Diane. I said, "Call Jay. If you guys want a reference, you got me."
Right. We
We
don't want
got
to
the information.
stop working a case until we know you're satisfied and have closure. And with this case, we have no control over whether someone wants to take a DNA test or not. And thank goodness that this your half sister's caretaker convinced her, yes, do a DNA test. It'll show that you are related, either first cousins or half siblings. And in this case, the DNA showed that you were half siblings. And then when did you meet her?
I met her about a week ago. We went to Florida. We went over to Pinellas Park. and knocked on the door. They both let me in. And I did not tell Diane that I was her half brother. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to upset her, but I did tell my caretaker,
You
which
mean
I
her
could have
caretaker?
called into. What?
Her caretaker.
Yes, her caretaker. She hasn't called me back because I'm looking for pictures. And but I want everything on the up and up. You know, if Diane wants to give me stuff, that's fine. But she probably knows by now that she's got two half brothers.
So the person who solved your case for us was Diane, and your half sister is Diane.
Yes.
Okay.
But Ashley did the technical work, statistical. Diane did all the information stuff on her database. She got all that. So you got a great database.
Well, thank you. But the crazy part of this story is we'll never know why you and your full brother were left at a doorstep, him in Chicago and you in Gary, Indiana, a year and a half apart. We'll never know that story because they're all deceased.
That's right.
But let me ask you this, Stan. You now have peace of mind, don't you?
Yes.
And the reason why you didn't tell your half sister, for what reason?
Well, because she made a statement, I believe, to Diane that her mother would never do anything like that.
So she
That's
just
why.
didn't
But
want to come
see,
to the
Diane
reality
was,
that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, Diane was born after she got, obviously after Priscilla got married. But this life was before Diane knew her mother. So I'm not sure how to approach it. She may know by now. But this was a very, I never in my life thought I'd ever solve this problem. Nobody could ever have probably a tougher problem in their life is to be left. Bud had had a birth certificate with his name, the father's name. But the mother's name we think was fictitious.
So she put down a fake name on the birth
She
certificate.
put down a fake name. That's what all the investigators think.
So thinking that no one would ever
Why
find her.
wouldn't she? Why wouldn't she? It's against the law. She was a young girl. She was about 20 years old. So.
And now you know her name,
Yes.
and it was not the same name on the birth certificate. So without the DNA, there was no way this case would be solved.
No way. No way.
Just amazing. So moving forward, what you obviously you've met Bernard and you obviously talk to him all the time.
We occasionally talk, but Jay, it's not that you can bond with somebody after these years. You're still strangers. And now I have full nephews and nieces, and they're still, they don't call me uncle. But it's just too late to bond. Unfortunately, and I could have used him 50, 60 years ago when he had a young family and I was single at the time. I could have used him and his wife, and it'd have been wonderful, but it's just unfortunate we just met too late.
So what do you say to people who are in your situation after all these years, have no clue who their birth parents are? What do you say to them?
I tell the people out there that there's hope, and there is a system, there's services such as yours that actually can find their birth parents, but they have to cooperate. They have to take the first step and call you. But I do recommend you guys. I never thought we'd solve this thing. Honest to God, I never did. I'm just shocked.
Well, when my Diane told me that your case was solved because your half sister took a DNA test and proved that she was your half sister, we were just so happy for you because we just didn't know how this would go. And obviously, if she didn't take the test, you would never know.
Well, I told Diane, I said, I'd be happy to recommend you people, but until I get my half sister, supposedly half sister's DNA, I can't do it. And I'm not going to do it until I get, and I got it. And when I came back, the first call was to Diane, and I believe in Orange County.
Right.
And we had a nice talk. She remembers me. She
right.
said, "Oh yeah, you're the foundling."
We don't forget anyone. And
yeah,
I want to thank you for everything, and I wish you the best. And it just couldn't have worked out any better.
Thank you, and I recommend you.